Hello friends, it's Tasha with Stardust Gold Crochet and the Infinite Yarniverse. Welcome to the Colorwork Crochet Club, and I wanted to go over today a few techniques on how to do mosaic crochet. I'm going to use these two different colors and just a 5mm hook, 5.5mm hook. And then I also wanted to show you the different styles of colorwork crochet that we'll be learning in this crochet club. And if you're familiar with them, that's great, that's wonderful. Then you just get all the other perks of the club, and if there's any tips and tricks that you want to learn, we'll go over them together. So I wanted to show you a few examples of color work and what you can create using different colors in crochet. And there's different styles of color work. Color work is basically just using a lot of different colors. Mostly it involves changing colors, joining different colored yarns. It's not just solid work like normal work. This is an example of the Temperance Rana or Temperance Rancho. And this is not, I don't know that this would be considered color work because you're not actually changing colors mid-row anywhere. But it does do stripes of color, so I guess you could call it color work. But I think when you hear the word color work in crochet, what it mostly is relating to is the use of bobbins, changing colors mid-row, things like that. So this is just considered striping because these are done in stripes. So this is an example of a colorwork C2C blanket that I did. It's called the Hearts blanket, and it's made with plushy yarn, and I love this blanket. It's actually one of my favorite blankets, and I did this really interesting colorwork border for it, which I absolutely love, using a puff stitch. And I changed colors every single stitch, which is quite interesting, but I have this tutorial on my blog if you want to learn how to do this really cool border. So this is done in C2C, which is corner to corner crochet, and that's where you're working from one corner to the other corner of the work diagonally like this. And it's done in little clusters of triple crochet. It's double crochets done in triple clusters. So 1, 2, 3 plus a chain at the beginning. And you'll learn this in the C2C course that is free with the Colorwork Club membership. So if you don't know how to do C2C yet, you can head over there and make that awesome blanket. This is another form of color work. This is actually the waistcoat stitch. It's done in tapestry crochet, which means you're basically working from a graph and you're working a pattern. And on the back side, you can see that I floated. I'm going to turn it inside out so you can see the different techniques of how you can work color work with different techniques using floating. You can carry the yarn inside, but here, this is the floating technique. So you can see in most Fair Isle patterns and Fair Isle knitting, you'll see that you tack the yarn in certain spaces like this. Like usually you don't want to go more than 4 spaces. On this one, you could see I did more than that, and that was my mistake. It leaves a big gap like that where it can snag on things. But if you're doing it right, you want to work and tack it every few stitches. And when I say tack it, I mean like when you're carrying the yarn in the back, you're floating the yarn, but then every 4th stitch, you'll crochet around it so that it tacks up to the work. But that is how the inside of the floating technique works. And that floating technique is also used in most Fair Isle knitting and also Fair Isle crochet. And this is my Fair Isle beanie. You can see that I floated the work on the inside. And when you first start doing it, you can see it was a little messy. But after you start to learn how to do it more, you start to get better at it. And you can notice the difference when you get better at it. And it becomes more like a pattern on the inside of the work. And it becomes more consistent. As you can see with these stitches, way more consistent, way more consistent. But I absolutely love doing the waistcoat stitch. I have so many beanie patterns with the waistcoat stitch on it, and that's done using graphs as well. So pretty much anything you can graph, you can turn into a beanie using the waistcoat stitch, or even tapestry. You don't have to use the waistcoat stitch. The waistcoat stitch looks like knit, and it's just a little more clean. And also, it doesn't have a lot of give to it, but it's a really thick, it makes for a very thick fabric. So I find it great for beanies. And then we have mosaic crochet, and mosaic crochet is just one of my favorites because the color work is done without actually adding colors mid-row. You can do that when you get more advanced in mosaic, but mosaic is used just one color per row going along. And this is reversible mosaic crochet. So, oops, got a little stray there. So you'll actually learn how to do reversible mosaic in this course as well. And over the next few months, I will be uploading all the different styles of reversible mosaic and regular mosaic. I actually have a regular mosaic tutorial already on the blog and on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to go ahead and upload one that's different for here. Then this, as we all know, is a granny square. And some people might not look at that as color work, but it's absolutely color work. You're just basically striping, changing rows. My cat has kitty cat hair. But there's ways to do granny squares where you don't have any tails. So that's going to be something you'll learn in this course as well. I shouldn't say course, I should say in the club. And then this is another mosaic I did. So mosaic is done using graphs as well. And if you don't do reversible, this is what the back side of your mosaic usually looks like. Stripes, which looks kind of cool too. So it's totally preference if you want to do reversible. Reversible is cool, but it takes up a lot more yarn. But those are some different styles and different ways you can do color work in crochet. And you can do pixel art, tapestries, wall hangings, blankets, beanies. You can basically use color work to make anything more interesting with your crochet projects. Okay, let's get started and work on a mosaic pattern. We're just going to do something super simple. I'm just going to show you how the stitches work and where the drop downs go and things like that. And we're going to use 2 color yarns, and I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook, and you're going to need scissors because we cut after every single row. So first we're going to start off doing a slip knot, and I'm assuming you know how to do a slip knot, but if in case you don't, I usually do mine like this. I just wrap it around and put it through. And I'm going to start off here with a chain of 10, actually a chain of 11, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to work a row of single crochets back through, and some people work through the humps. I find that kind of cumbersome, but you're welcome to do that. It's up to you. We can try. Let's try. So we're going to do single crochets, and we're going to work all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to try working through the humps even though I don't like it. Okay, so I did my little chain, and this is why I tried working in the humps, and I think I butchered it. I don't like working in the humps. I usually do a foundation single crochet row to start. So once you finish at the end, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go ahead and cut the yarn. And you want to leave, depending on what you want to do with your finished project, you can leave a long tail and then create tassels, or I usually cut them about 2 to 3 inches just to be on the safe side, and then you chain 1 and you pull it through. And so there you have your very first row, which is your foundation row of mosaic crochet. And then usually we start with the second color. I'm going to grab my second color and go into this very first stitch, insert my hook, add my yarn to the hook, and make sure you leave a little bit of your tail, and then just pull it through. Let your tail drop. I usually hold it with my right hand to keep it tension, and then chain 1, and then we work back through the exact same stitch. After this, you can chain 1 to leave a gap, which will make it a little bit easier to work your envelope borders into. Then after that, we're going to work into the back loop only of the stitch and work a single crochet in each back loop only across the entire project. So anytime you see a blank space on your mosaic crochet chart, depending on the designer and who you're looking at, for me, if you see a blank space on my chart, it means you're doing a single crochet in the back loop only. and you work all the way across until you come to the very end, the very last stitch, and that's where you do your anchor stitch. And I usually like to go through the center, kind of like a waistcoat stitch. So you work straight through the V's and then do a single crochet, chain one, and then turn it over and then cut your yarn, pull it through, and there you have your second row. Now the third row is where we normally do our drop down stitches. So on the third row of every chart is usually when you do that, and depending on the design. So I'm going to grab my other yarn, my color A. I'm going to do the same thing with my starting stitch and go through the center like a waistcoat stitch. Add my yarn, pull through, chain one, and then I'm going to go back through that center, same like we did before, and do a single crochet. I'm going to chain one, and then here is where we're going to do our drop down stitches. So we're not working off a pattern, I'm just showing you how the stitch is done in Mosaic, and a drop down stitch is done wherever you see an X in the pattern. So whenever you see an X, you're going to go to the front loop only of the stitch 2 rows down. So you're on this row, we're on row 3, you count row 2, row 1, so you're going to go straight down into the very first row by yarning over. I'm going to show you 2 ways. I'm going to stop first. I'm going to show you 2 ways. First, I'm going to show you how you do it, and then I'm going to show you how to anchor the stitch. So first, just going to go, I go through the top like this. Some people go through the bottom, or you can hook it up like this. But what I found by going through the top like this is it doesn't leave a gap in the color. And let me show you what I'm talking about. You double crochet like that. So I was working several mosaic patterns, and so this is what I'm doing that's coming out in March for a year-long crochet along. And you can see these little holes, and I know that might not bother some people. See the little hole right there? But for some reason, for me, it bothers me, like these little tiny holes. Well, what I noticed was when I go through, see the little holes right there? When I go through doing it this way, it doesn't leave, when the fabric relaxes, it doesn't leave as big of a hole there. So that's my little tidbit. So we're going to do one more normally through the top like that, and you work your double crochet just like normal. So when you anchor your stitches, you're going to go, instead of yarning over first, you're just going to go through the back loop only of your next stitch, yarn over and pull up, and then you can go straight down into the stitch, yarn over, pull up, you can yarn over and pull through like that. It anchors your stitch on the back so that there's no gap left over. Some people do an actual extra stitch. Well, they'll do this and they'll do that and then yarn over and work down into this again, and it ends up leaving 3 loops on top like that. So it does make it a little bit more bulbous on top. So I guess it's preference, but you can see the difference in how they look. Doing it with the 3 on top actually kind of gives it a little bit more bulk. See how that works? It actually looks kind of nice. I might start doing it that way from now on. And it does hide those little holes a little bit better when it relaxes. You can see the difference, can't you? So this is with no anchoring, these 2, and you'll see that it has a little gap here at the back. These 2 are with anchoring, using just a double crochet and not yarning over at all. And you can see that it does leave some kind of a few little gaps where the color shows through. And then this is where you're yarning over after you already anchor it. And it does, I like that. It kind of is thicker. It looks a little bit more put together and nice. So that way, if you like that way like I do, is yarning over first, going through, yarning over and picking up, and then going down below, yarning over and then doing through 2 and yarning over and pulling through 2 more, or 3, the last 3. So that's how it's done. That is mosaic crochet in a nutshell. You're working with 2 stitches, single crochet in the back loop only, and double crochets drop down to 2 rows into the front loop only. That's it. And you follow your graph. X's are the drop downs and blank squares are the single crochets. And it is so easy and so simple. And then by the end of it, you come up with some really cool patterns. Now this one's a little bit different. I used some together stitches and I actually went outside of the box to create this one. And I'll probably be releasing this soon because it's coming up on Valentine's Day and I can't wait to get this one out there. It's a mug rug, y'all. It's a mug rug. Isn't it cute? Okay, well, I hope that helps with mosaic crochet. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. And I will soon be doing a tutorial for the envelope borders. And the envelope borders are totally beautiful. I'll show some pictures around here. Okay, thanks guys. Leave any questions you have below. Bye.